Hey, my name's Brent, and today I'm going to be talking to you about some activities you can do with your students for the standard MCC6 NS5. This is a Common Core standard that deals with positive and negative numbers. Now, prior to doing all these activities, I would probably do some prior assessment with my students as far as do they understand what a positive number and a negative number is. I would also try to prepare or compare it to like real world examples, such as like debits and credits, above sea level and below sea level, and anything that's like in the real world that they should understand. Temperature is another one that they'll probably be real familiar with. The first activity that I would do would be using just playing cards. This is a 0, and I would pass out playing cards to my students. 10 of the red and 10 of the black, and I've used the ace all the way up through 10. I didn't use the king, the jack, because they don't have numbers on them. The reason I use the ace is because you can count it as one. And obviously this is only going to involve 20 students in your class, but you can also get your other students to help you out as well after you get this going. But what you'll do is explain to your students that the red cards are your negative numbers and the black are your positive. And what you'll do is you'll mix them up and pass them out to 20 students. And you'll tell them to get in order at the front of the room. Obviously 0 is going to be your middle point. Give this to somebody to stand up in the middle of the room and tell them to form a number line at the front of the room. And what they'll do is once they figure out who's got what cards, you should have your negative numbers to the right of the 0, and you should have your positive numbers to the left of the 0. Now, those students I talked about that wouldn't get a card that's still going to be sitting in their desk, let them, be the judges of did they line up correctly and did they get the number line correct. Now, after this is pretty simple because it just deals with numbers, 1 through 10, both positive and negative. So that's not real difficult. They should grasp onto that pretty quick. After that, though, I would do some printouts of some, lot bigger numbers. And once again, let them know red's your negative, black's your positive. Pass these out. I mean, you can go, 50, 150, up to 175. I mean, you can just use all kind of big numbers or whatever and pass these out. And you can print out, you can print out a whole class of these. So, I mean, you're not limited to the 20 like you are with playing cards. You can get the whole class involved with this. And once again, give somebody the 0, and you should have your negative numbers to the right of it and your positive numbers to the left of it. And the point of this is for them to understand, negative's below 0, positive is above 0. But once again, that's just them creating a number line. And it's just an advanced version of the card technique I showed you at the beginning. Now, another activity that I think is pretty neat is when you're talking about sea level. These are 6th grade students. Drawing and stuff like that would be very fun for them. But what I would do, as you can see on this paper, I have it labeled 200, down to 0, then down to your negative numbers. What you'll want to do, I'm using markers for this so it'll show up, but you can let kids use just their pencil, or if you got colored pencils in your room, you can use it, or you can use markers. I mean, it doesn't really matter. But the way to start it off is to tell them to draw the sea level, or, draw waves at 0. And so, just let them draw their water at 0. Okay? And, tell them to imagine themselves that they're in a boat. And so tell them to draw a boat sitting on this water at sea level. Okay? And so, as you can see, I have my water and my boat sitting at 0, at sea level. Now, the first thing you might want to ask them to do, you might ask them to draw you a hot air balloon. And you can ask them, where would you find a hot air balloon? Is it going to be below the water or above the water? And obviously it's going to be above the water. So tell them to draw it at around 200 feet above sea level. So let them draw you a hot air balloon. And obviously some kids might not be able to draw very good, but that's not the point of this. The point of this is to be able to understand the positive and negative number aspect of this. Now, you might want to ask them, where would you find a submarine? And obviously, is it going to be above the water or below the water? And obviously, submarine is going to be below the water. Tell them to put it, maybe 200 feet below sea level. And so, let them draw you a submarine down here below sea level. Okay, and then this is where you want to start emphasizing that the submarine is below sea level. And what does below sea level mean? It means that it's negative. Okay, but make sure they understand that below sea level is going to be your negative numbers. You can continue on with this. You may want to ask them to draw you, I don't know, maybe some birds. And, once again, ask them, is birds going to be above sea level or below it? Obviously, it's going to be above it. So tell them, draw you some birds around 50 to 100 feet. Draw you a couple birds. Okay, then they can just draw some birds up there. And then to, finish it up, use something that they're all familiar with. Where would you find fish? Above sea level, or is it going to be below the water? Obviously, fish is going to be below the water. Let them draw you like a school of fish around maybe 50 to 100 below sea level. Okay, so you see you got your fish below sea level. Now, the take-home message of this whole activity is for them to understand that where the boat sits and where the water is zero. This is on the sea level. It is neither negative or positive. Zero is a neutral number. You want them to understand that everything below sea level and below this zero, such as the fish and the submarine and all this, are negative numbers. Anything that goes below the zero or anything below the sea level is going to be negative, whereas if it's above the water, like the birds and the hot air balloon, it's going to be above sea level, so anything above zero is going to be a positive number. And the reason I'd say this is a good activity is because this is hands-on. The kids draw it. If they remember drawing the fish and the submarine and remember that being associated with being under the water and it being negative, it's a lot easier for them to understand, negative increases as it goes under zero farther away and positive increases as it goes above zero farther away. So I think this is just a good kinesthetic activity, hands-on, for them to be able to draw out stuff and maybe help them remember what's negative and what's positive. Now, one final activity that I would do involves a thermometer and a worksheet asking questions using the thermometer. Obviously, this is just a homemade thermometer. It is a paint stirrer from Sherwin-Williams. You can get these, from Lowe's, Home Depot, whatever. And obviously, I made this one beforehand. If you have a really good group of students and you think they can handle it, you can, get everybody one of these and let them draw their own thermometer. But the point of having this is almost like having a number line with you. Let's take a look at our first question. The temperature changed from -1 degrees to +10 degrees. How much did the temperature change by? Well, if they'll look at their thermometer here, we started at -1 and we ended up at 10. So let's see how much it went up by. So it went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So the temperature increased by a +11 degrees. As you can see on our example, that is the answer for this one. Once again, the take-home message with this is you want them to be able to understand, as you go up, it's going to be a positive number. As it goes down, it's negative. And this also brings in the adding and subtracting aspect of positive and negative numbers, which can be confusing to some children when they first start doing it. I think that's a good activity to end with. Now, obviously, this is a lot, and you may not cover all of this in one day. You may use these activities over a whole week or something. And the best thing to do is just to, play it by ear and how your class does with it. And for extra credit, you could even get your kids to tell you maybe the highest point above sea level and maybe the lowest point below sea level, such as like the certain mountains and certain valleys. But these are all ideas you can use with that Common Core standard. and just come up with anything you can to go along with it, and you can modify these to your own likings in your own class. But these are just some ideas I throw out there. But thanks for watching, and once again, my name's Brent. Thank you.